Hey everybody, it's Ken Compton from the Savvy Inspector, and today I've got Coach William. We're hanging out talking about the workshop. Coach William, welcome, sir.
Hey Ken, great to be here. Let's get it.
Yeah, buddy. I'll tell you, this year we've got a change. We talked about in an earlier video. Instead of doing all of the presentations from the stage, we're going to get into breakout sessions. So if this is the first video you've watched, we're going to talk about a breakout session that is on the minds and hearts of tons of home inspectors because of the crispness of the market, and that's recruiting. Yes, recruiting, Mr. William. What do you think? Are you sick of kissing frogs?
Yeah, you know it, but it kind of comes with the territory. The job is to try to limit that as much as possible. But yeah, it's a ever ongoing process. I myself right now am looking at 3 candidates to possibly bring on board.
Now, William, we always say success is never a straight line, and that's even true for your firm. You have a well-run, well-managed firm, but you've had a little trouble with inspectors recently as well, hadn't you?
Yeah, and that's just part of human resources, if you will, that you have to deal with that. But it is a straight line. I keep trying to tell you it's straight this way and then straight that way. But yeah, it is one of the challenges that we have to face, and there are some great ways to overcome that if we do it smartly.
Right. I will tell you that you should never stop recruiting. You should never stop recruiting, because just when you think you have a stable corral of inspectors that something's going to happen, their wife gets transferred, or they get injured, or they decide to take a job at a big manufacturing company and go back to work for some other man. So you just can't stop recruiting, and it's a big problem. You know, in the old days, before the internet came along, I mean, I'd have to do all kinds of things to try to find a home inspector to fill the firm. We had 13 guys going full-time, 5 schedulers, and 3 ladies in our direct mail center full-time. And we had demand, but keeping up with it and finding the right candidates was rough, because we didn't really look at it like a big business. But today at the Savvy Inspector, we teach home inspectors how to recruit prospective employees in, and it's way better.
I agree. It's helped me out tremendously. You know, you just hit all 3 of those reasons: sick, injured, transferred, took a factory job.
Yeah,
that's the reality.
Here's to my own firm. So you know, nobody's immune from it.
Right. Yeah, that's the reality of it. That you have to deal with that and keep the pipeline full.
I know that we have some clients that we turned into multi-inspector firms, and they said, "Oh, I've got the perfect candidate," and they quit recruiting. And what happens? Doesn't turn out to be the perfect candidate, does it?
That's right. And you know, now each state's different. I know Georgia is not a licensed state, so you don't have those hurdles to jump. But in states like mine, where you have to get licensed, sometimes that is tedious and timely as well. So you have to consider all that. You may need somebody right away, but the time frame it takes to make that happen can really hurt you. So you've got to keep a funnel full of good candidates that are ready to go.
At the workshop in this breakout session, we're going to talk to you about who makes the best candidate. Should you recruit somebody full-time or part-time? We're going to talk about automation and how you can set up the process so you can catch way less frogs before you find a prince. You know, if people don't do the right thing, send you the right information, can't follow instructions, are we really interested in them, William? I mean, this is the home inspection business. This is pretty technical.
Right. It's your favorite 4-letter word we have to use a lot.
Next.
And that's next, yeah.
That is so true. Now, let's talk about hiring somebody brand new to the industry as opposed to hiring somebody in industry. What's your preference? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the preference, because I've heard mixed reviews from other members, but me personally, we do, you know, a lot of in-house training. So personally, I like a guy that hasn't been out there and been established. And I say that off the cuff because I've really never hired somebody that was, you know, 10 years out on their own and brought them on that way. So I haven't had to fight that. But through the other folks and what I can imagine, trying to break old habits could be tough. So I think there's pros and cons to both of it. You know, the way you have your firm established and how you're going to handle that, I think is just as important to which way you would choose to do that. It's definitely more time consuming to hire someone that, you know, hasn't already gotten established, or at least has been licensed and out there a little bit, versus bringing somebody, you know, through the schooling and through the classes and the exam and all that in these licensed states. you're way better off to get somebody that's either on the verge of picking up those licenses or just did, in my opinion.
Well, we had the AHIT school in our training center in Roswell, Georgia, in Southern Home Inspection Services, because I was looking at it as a great way to identify students that were in our area that really were sharp, and we could add them to our team. But what I found out really during the course of that was, one, a lot of them thought they were going to achieve the American dream, and they really got out there and wanted to get out there and strike out on their own, to hit that gold mine. And then the second group was they would come to work for a multi-inspector firm, but then what happens once they got the experience, then they wanted to get out on their own. Now, some would say that to you and some wouldn't. Here's what I'm really looking for, work for a big company for a couple of years and then get out on my own. And of course, that's counterproductive for us as owners. So it's really hard. I like to find somebody who is good in business, who has good interpersonal skills, and bring them through the process. And I'll tell you, when I started, because I started as a multi-inspector firm with 8 guys in one first day, I had to bring in people who were seasoned and experienced. And I spent most of my time fighting them and trying to break their habits and, this, that, and the other. And after 24 months, they were turned over. I said, no. What I need is somebody with great interpersonal skills that wants to do it the Southern Home way, so that we can achieve our dreams. And that's what we did. And it worked out way better. So I'm pretty biased against bringing these people on. That, one of the things when you bring on recruiting experienced inspectors, what about that pay thing? You think that they think you're paying them too little?
Yeah, that's a huge hurdle for somebody that's been out there on their own.
They're not successful on their own. Otherwise, they wouldn't be talking to you, but yet they think they should earn 100%.
Right. Or 75. Yeah, it's crazy. So, yeah, that's another good point. I mean, and you brought it up too, that, you could take, and I don't want to make it sound too clean, but I mean, most anybody could learn the technical skills of being a home inspector. But it's those interpersonal skills, the communication skills, that can really make or break the difference. Because I tell folks all that's what I'm looking for. Number one and foremost is, are you a good communicator? Do you give off, the air of confidence? Can you deal with an upset agent and an upset client? How well can you handle that situation? So that's, for me, that's a good 75% of a new hire, is that people skills.
I mean, William, look at me. I wasn't a home inspector for the first 5 years. You know me well. I'm the least technical guy you know. Okay, so, I went in and learned the home inspection business later, and I'll tell you, I still get referrals or requests at Southern Home Inspection Services, and I haven't been there in years, because I have good interpersonal skills. I can communicate with the janitor of the company or the president of the company equally effectively. And when you're recruiting, that's the number one thing you should be looking for. And we have some tools, and we're going to teach them to you at the workshop about how to profile, and does that make a difference? William, it's made a huge difference in your firm.
Yeah, it's done so well, proven itself so well for us that, all of our employees, inter office employees, as well as the inspectors, are profiled. And then what's really cool about that is you're able to match to the job and to the other people that they work with, and make sure you have a win-win. You're not putting, not having a big chicken fight here amongst your employees, because that can happen. And same way with knowing the inspectors. One of the great things about it, one of the recent hires I made, I was able to sit down and say, this is a concern. This is a concern. If this is your profile, what are we going to do if this situation arises? And you're able to get those kind of things on the table at the very start, and be anticipating those rather than having that as a surprise and something you have to deal with later.
Right. And, we work with our clients at the Savvy Inspector on a regular basis about these profiles. Let's say a lot of home inspectors are analyzed or blended profile, which when you look at their sub-factors, in many cases, they don't have great communication skills. They're reserved, they're quiet. They'd rather have their head in the electrical panel doing the evaluation than talking with the agents. But that isn't the perfect hire, is it?
No, it's not. No, it's just what I said a moment ago. It's got a lot to do with those interpersonal skills. I've shared with you, my least technical inspector that I have tends to get the best reviews, and it's just because his personality and he gives off that air of confidence. People know, like, and trust him just by being around him. He doesn't have to say much. He's just one of those kind of guys. So, but when it comes to the technical skills, he's the one I would be most concerned about in the field.
I think you have to be technically proficient and have good interpersonal skills. And if you are, that's a winner profile. We see it with all of our clients. Those that succeed tremendously in the home inspection business have good interpersonal skills and they're technically proficient. And that's all you have to be. The standards of practice are very clear about what we need to inspect and talk about. Okay, so you don't have to be some super technician to go past that.
That's exactly right. And those guys that are end up, a lengthy report that says too much, and you can hurt yourself that way.
True.
Yeah.
So in this breakout session, what's going to happen is we're going to talk to you about the best people to recruit, a way to do it. We're going to talk to you about building a talent bank of people. If you don't have a position open, you go ahead and build a talent bank, and how you make that work for your future when you need an additional home inspector. We're going to talk about automation of the recruiting process so that you can live your life and do other things while you're recruiting on autopilot. And I'll tell you, William, this always turns out to be one of the most packed breakout sessions.
Right. Well, hey, it's a way to get your life back, because this is, looking for good people is a full-time job. So to get this automated, we're only looking at you're only speaking to the ones that you want to. I think that's crucial. And that's helped us out tremendously.
Right. I see you're going to kiss a lot less frogs on the way to find the prince.
Exactly.